hearing into the operations of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, with particular reference to the recent crypto bullion exchange CIBEX incident. This motion is co-sponsored by my good self and Senator Osita Izunazo. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, aware that the economic well-being and financial security of Nigerian citizens are essential pillars of national stability and growth, and that it is the duty of government to protect the populace from exploitative, predatory, and fraudulent financial practices and schemes that threaten their livelihoods. Deeply concerned about the rapid proliferation and alarming rise of unregulated and fraudulent investment schemes, commonly known as Ponzi or pyramid schemes, such as MMM Nigeria in 2016, MBA Forex in 2020, to mention a few, which have repeatedly defrauded millions of Nigerians, causing severe financial hardship and, in some cases, driving victims to depression, family breakdowns, and even suicide. Note in particular the recent case of crypto bullion exchange CIBEX, a digital investment platform which lured millions of Nigerians with the promise of outrageous returns before suddenly collapsing and resulting in investors losing over 1.3 trillion and making it one of the most devastating financial scams in the country's history. Further notes that the CIBEX incident is not an isolated case, but part of an existing and growing pattern of unregulated and fraudulent schemes that leverages technology, social media to deceive the public, and often using tactics such as referral commissions, celebrity endorsements, and fake testimonials to build credibility and drive recruitment. And shocked that despite the scale of operations and visibility of CIBEX, it operated for an extended period without facing sanctions by either the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, the CBN, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, and also EFCC. Alarmed that the lack of coordinated oversight, real-time monitoring, and strict enforcement by relevant agencies has created an enabling environment for such schemes to flourish, eroding public trust in legitimate financial institutions and posing a systemic risk to the economy. Recognizes that the growing sophistication of such fraudulent platforms, combined with low levels of financial literacy and a lack of access to formal investment opportunities, makes the Nigerian population increasingly vulnerable to such schemes. Conscious that Section 8, Sub 1A and B of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, empowers the National Assembly to conduct investigations into any matter, and further conscious that these constitutional powers empower the Senate to investigate the failure of regulatory agencies to monitor and prevent the CIBEX fraud, as well as to propose necessary legislative and administrative reforms to forestall future occurrences, and alarmed at the increasing sophistication of Ponzi scheme operators and the devastating consequences of their actions, and the need for urgent public education to prevent further exploitation and of unsuspecting citizens. Mindful of the urgent need to protect Nigerian citizens, especially vulnerable groups, from financial predators, by investigating the lapses that allowed CIBEX and similar platforms to thrive unchecked, and to recommend robust mechanisms for monitoring, prevention, and prosecution. And resolve to mandate the Joint Senate Committee on Capital Market and Institutions, Banking, Insurance, and Other Financial Institutions, Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes, and ICT and Cybercrime to conduct a comprehensive investigative hearing, including public hearing on the operations of Ponzi schemes in Nigeria and report back in 4 weeks. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, I so move. Thank you, Mr. President and my distinguished.
Ponzi schemes has become very, very alarming and goes to the root of our socio-economic well-being, because they take advantage of vulnerable and gullible Nigerians to cash in on that and perpetrate all these crimes that defraud Nigerians of their hard-earned money, and sending some to their early graves. As a parliament that is responsible and responsive to the yearnings and aspirations of the people, that jealously guards and protects the interests of the people, it behoves on us to look at whatever loopholes or lacuna in the existing laws that these Ponzi schemes exploit with a view to perpetrating these illegalities. The laws should not only be amended, but should be strengthened in order to take care of these Ponzi schemes and nip it in the bud. Against this background, I support the prayer embedded in this motion. Thank you.
I think we should speak for 1 minute, because I can see.
I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar. I represent the good and decent people of Kwara North, and we who are. Mr. President, I rise to support this motion because of how important is it to this country. We all know how much people lose money, lose their head, lose their mind, and in fact, some people lost their lives because of such Ponzi acts. Now, my concern is our job as legislators is to protect the people that sent us here to represent them. And we do this by making laws, public investigation, and so on. And let me say that citizens trust their country and their leaders. That's why, for example, any one of us here, you can just move into a supermarket, you see a drink, corked, imported anywhere, you don't even know what is inside, whether it's bacteria, poison, but you buy and pick and drink freely. Why? You trust that you have a government that will protect you with our agencies and regulators. We have to continually monitor any financial scheme to protect citizens by holding the NFIU, for example, CBN is there, EFCC, or SEC, all these agencies, that's their job. They must not allow this to always slip. And since this has been slipping, we, the representative of the people, we have to hold them accountable and make sure that this does not slip again. Thank you very much, Mr.
Senator Lami Lekonde, Senator.
Mr. President, distinguished colleague, let me vividly recollect that there was an attempt last week, but here we today, discussing about effect on the people of Nigeria. Mr. President, yes, this is not the first time that issues like this is happening. And I know that there was an attempt by the last administration while amending the Finance Act in 2022 to ensure that all online transactions that they pay some taxes on the online transaction. We made this several attempts, and that was when Nigeria had issues with Facebook, with other online businesses, just in an attempt to ensure that we can regulate their activities as far as Nigeria is concerned. Mr. President, Ponzi, or whatever this is called, is just one out of the numerous online payments that we have. Many of our Gen Z of this world no longer go to the banks. They patronize all these online payment system. A lot of them. Ponzi is just one out of the numerous online payments, and hiding under the language, the fintech, that you go through the fintech, that you pay through the fintech, and you make this a pause. They call it pause. You just drop money there, the following morning you get the money somewhere else. And they have taken advantage of us as a nation because the regulation is not there. Because I wonder how this monumental fraud will happen to Nigeria when we have a regulator, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in place. And that was why I'm supporting this investigative hearing, because we are only going to be looking at Ponzi, but we have so many other online payment platforms that is not mentioned. So we want to ask Central Bank, what are the regulations that you have put in place to protect Nigerians against all these kind of transactions? No other countries of the world you can embark on this kind of item of transaction without necessary regulation in place. We need to find out from the Central Bank of Nigeria. We need to. Aside punishing or going after Ponzi, which is one out of the numerous, you can testify that this is not the first or second or third time. And we can't continue in this trend. So whatever is embedded or covered under this body of this motion is just a way to draw the attention of this Nigerian Senate that Nigeria can no longer continue to be defrauded by all these online platforms. So, Mr. President, I'm in total support of this motion, that we carry out this investigative hearing so that we can address this matter once and for all. And also the cyber security, all this IT, our information technology. We need to find out, what are they doing? What are they doing? Are we saying Nigeria is that porous at all levels, to the extent that Nigeria has lost millions and billions in naira, in dollars, trillions? So, Mr. President, very distinguished colleague, this one motion we should all support, and we should all be interested in investigative hearing. We need to all be there to let's speak to the truth and address these issues once and for all. Mr. President, the signal also submits.
Thank you. Actually, I would like to hear from maybe two more people. Distinguished Senator Alero, in case you have personal experience, if you have been there. You have? Yes, it happens. Is it with the last one they call MMM?
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I want to add that Nigerians that patronize these Ponzi schemes are also at fault, because they look at tempting offers that promise quick returns, and they easily fall into prey. So it falls on us, we the legislators, to also sensitize our people not to patronize these Ponzi schemes. And Mr. President, the failure of regulatory agencies is very evident. The CBN, the Security and Exchange Commission, the EFCC, and other regulators are also at fault, because they fail to monitor whatever these people are doing. And that's why millions of Nigerians have been defrauded. Except in the motion, some have even committed suicide. We cannot afford to continue to watch this kind of thing happening in our economy without taking stringent measures to stop them. Mr. President, I support fully the conduct of public hearing. And what has been mentioned, $847 million, is a small amount. And this is why even foreign investment is eluding this country. If Nigerians are being duped close to about 1 billion, why should a foreigner come and invest? We have to do whatever we can to sanitize the economy by getting rid of these fraudsters. If they exist, honestly speaking, it will affect foreign direct investment. So I support fully the conduct of public hearing, and all of us should participate in that public hearing. And we should mark enough publicity and sensitize Nigerians that they should come forward and air their views on this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Extraordinary motion that deals with an extraordinary situation that demands an extraordinary reaction. Mr. President, permit me to quote Chapter 2 of our Constitution, especially Section 13, and by the leave of the President of the Senate, may I read, "It shall be the duty and responsibility of all organs of government, of all authorities and persons exercising legislative, executive, or judicial powers to conform to, observe, and apply the provision of this Constitution." And the Constitution goes further in Section 14(3) of B. "The security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government." Mr. President, the motion has elucidated that even though the Act of the National Assembly has given sweeping powers to the Security and Exchange Commissions, to the Central Bank of Nigeria, to the Nigerian Financial Intelligence, and to the economic and financial crimes, yet these things just take place in Nigeria as if these laws are not in place. These laws are in place, but over the years, this Ponzi scheme has not happened just this year. It has been happening for over 20 years, even under our democratic experiment. And for me, personally, for a motion of this nature to be brought to the floor of the Senate, I think the mover and both the Senate, for placing it for debate, must be commended. Even if outside people will not commend us, we must commend ourselves, because what this motion shows is that the people are in our minds. Billions of naira has been spent. Millions of dollars have been spent on this Ponzi scheme, and yet going down the drain, and you ask questions, what is happening? Who are responsible for these Ponzi schemes? Why are they doing this Ponzi scheme, and yet no arrest, no sanction? So all these things boils down to us as a people. However, the mover of the nation has said, conscious that Section 80, Mr. President, has given the National Assembly the powers to make laws, the conduct of affairs of any person, the catchwords are any person, any authority, any ministry or government department charged or intended to be charged with a duty of or responsibility for executing or administrating laws enacted by the National Assembly. So Section 80 of the Constitution has given us these powers. But like I said, that's why I keep on commending the Senator. These powers are in place. But for a very long time, we have not been able to utilize these powers, particularly as it affects this Ponzi scheme. Rural dwellers, our people, who make ends meet in a very difficult manner, immediately they see this Ponzi scheme, they get involved. My constituents, over the years, sir, you give them 10,000, 20,000, instead of actually investing. But when they see a Ponzi scheme that promises them 10,000 plus 10,000 after 1 week, they take this money and place it there. You give them 100,000. It is this money, quick money, that has been the central minds of an average Nigerian. And the law is in place. And therefore, once this Senate is able to nip this on the bud, call these security agencies to questions, direct them, and making sure that if this thing continues to happen, then the parliament has its own option. And I think this particular motion is commendable and is apt, is timely. And I'm sure the Senate President, from his own vintage of position, should be able to commend the movers, the sponsor of these bills, and of course some of us senators who have sat to discuss this. And we were looking forward to discussing this since last week. And time was running out, and we advised Baba Adini, the Abiru, Senator Abiru, to drop it onto a much better time. I do not think, in my opinion, finally, sir, that this is a matter that we must limit discussion on. It is a very fundamental matter that concerns Nigerians all across. So it is a matter that is very, very important. And we must commend ourselves for listening to it and debating it. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, did you?
I did not, sir, because we're on the last order.
Okay, because I just wanted I wanted to be guided. So, so in reality, we are satisfied that there is nobody opposed to this motion. Nobody. I just want to say that from my personal experience, just like Senator Alero's experience, before the collapse of the financial system in 1991, maybe some of our senators were not born then. Please find out from Senator Asukwa when he was born. So there was the one they used to call Omana in Port Harcourt. And when eventually the security agencies woke up, if you carry 50,000 to them, in 1 week they will give you another 50,000, and then they will tell you, they will encourage you to put it back. So you don't have 100,000, and they will give you a paper. In another week, you go back, you don't have 200,000. They will tell you to put it back. But if you insist, they will collect from A and give to B, and collect from B and give to C, and then many will now return. And then they will give you additional interest. So eventually when the security services swapped on them, they found out that they didn't even know how to store the money. Most of the notes were eaten by rats because they just hired warehouses and packed the money. And they were spending on themselves, buying properties. When you come to look for your money, they go to the warehouse and draw Ghana must go. And sometimes half of the money would have decayed and all that. It was such a terrible nightmare. And many Nigerians committed suicide when they lost their monies. So the collapse of that financial system should have taught us a lesson. But no. In this time now, we are still seeing students carrying their pocket monies, collecting monies from their parents for medicals, and going to dump in all sorts of Ponzi schemes. And then you see, at a go, a group will make away with 1.8 trillion from the country, and no action seems to be taken. We would like to see them brought to book. And we need to, like Senator Adero said, we need to educate our constituents. So part of my recommendation with this beautiful motion will be that we should also organize a major public outing, even if we have to do it in different zones of the country, to enable us educate our populace and educate our constituents so that we can avoid unnecessary suicide and avoid also unnecessary scamming of the Nigerian citizens, whilst at the same time alerting the security agencies and the Central Bank of Nigeria to their responsibilities to protect the welfare and the lives and security of all our citizens, as enshrined in Section 14, subsection B of the Nigerian Constitution. So I want to thank all of you for your contributions and thank Baba Adini and his colleague for bringing this forward to the fore. And like I said, this is extremely important. It concerns all. If it does not concern you, it will concern your relation. So if you are not affected, you will be infected. Honestly, it concerns the entirety of the country, and particularly those who are not very literate. Distinguished colleagues, we can look at the prayers.